Let's take a look at what is going on right now in South Africa. Hundreds of protesters came out in mass in the coastal city of Durban. They were demanding the removal and repatriation of foreigners. They are asking the government, please implement tougher actions against those immigrants that are undocumented, those illegal immigrants, especially those from Nigeria, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Mexico, and many other countries that reside particularly in the coastal area of Durban. And the protesters were members of political parties and a xenophobic vigilante group known as Operation Dudula, which translates to pushback in their Zulu language. And we all know South Africa to be Africa's most industrialized country. It is also the prime destination for people who are seeking for greener pastures, for employment. But the country also accounts for 32% rate of unemployment. But this group of individuals are saying that illegal immigrants from other countries are taking our jobs. They are also contributing to the crime rate in the country, particularly in that coastal area where they deal on drugs and all that. It definitely means that to some degrees there is competition for jobs in that country. And according to statistics, around 3 million foreigners, that's about 5.1% of the population, they live in the country. The citizens of South Africa have their own rights. They can protest against something like this, but where we do not want it to get to is where it begins to result into attacks of foreigners where it occurred in time past. Because according to this claim by one of the protesters, an 81-year-old man, he said, "I have seen my country going down because officials take bribes to give documents illegally. Police allow drug trade because they are paid. Jobs are being taken away by our brothers from other parts of Africa who are here illegally. Where will our children get jobs?" This is their own position. But we here in Nigeria say no, you shouldn't get to the point where you start attacking other people from other countries. But I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Nedu. First of all, prior to 1994, Nigeria has been playing big boy, even to South Africa. We led the coalition that has assisted the country in moving away from the grip of the whites, signaling the end of apartheid regime. Immediately the apartheid regime ended, it gives Nigerians a lot of leeway to travel to South Africa.
Okay.
And don't forget, in the whole of Africa, South Africa seems to be the most industrialized nation.
Yeah.
And there are people somehow, not having the energy, the zeal, the skill, the entrepreneurial spirits like Nigerians. Another advantage is that to travel from South Africa to US, UK, and some other European countries, it's very easier for Nigerians and some other African countries who are resident there. So as a result of that, from 1994 up to about 2025, report has it that Nigerians who are there are about 800,000 residents in South Africa. Some of them are in KwaZulu, Johannesburg, and some other cities. But quite unfortunately, another report has it that out of these 800,000, about 500,000 of them are illegal, migrants. Illegal in the sense that they also bribe their way in, because corruption is also endemic in South Africa. They bribe their way in to get access into that country. So that is basically one of the causes of this series of attacks that has been happening several times. Secondly, Nigerian spirit is always in us anywhere we go to. And in fact, those spirits can lead a medical doctor in Nigeria to go to South Africa or other European countries and becomes a truck driver. That's the spirit, that's the can-do spirit. Some of us are so enterprising that we travel there and set up a lot of big businesses. So South Africans, by their nature, they are not hardworking people. And when they see the hardworking Nigerians competing with them for jobs, for instance, if a vacancy is announced and you see 10 people from South Africa, and you also see like 8 people from Nigerians, and the slot is not more than 2, 3. And then some private companies, some of them are owned by multinationals. You know, remember the case of ShopRite and all that. They are multinational firms. So because they are multinationals, they don't have the interests of South Africa at heart. They are having interests of employing the best. So when Nigerians prove to be the best, they get them employed. So when they are employed, the South Africans feel that if they are not there in the first place, there is no house. Some of them will be
considered.
Be considered for the job. So that's why you see this form of protest here and there that has been happening for years. So I also fear, just like you have expressed, that this does not lead to xenophobic attack on Nigerians and some other foreign nationals that are there. But beyond this analysis, I believe that no nation will respect Nigerians more than the way the government of Nigeria respects our citizens. So we cannot be more respected than the way we are respected at home. For instance, Nedu, if you have a manager here who is the head of the station, the way and manner you respect such a manager is the way we that are your analysts or that are friends to the station, we are going to respect.
True.
If you don't accord him respect, if you also come, you know, you can step on him and just move away like that. South Africans and some other nationals see the way some government agencies, some states, even at the level of federal government, are abusing the right of the citizens in Nigeria. That's why they are also doing that abroad. Have you ever seen any country disrespecting American citizens, treating them anyhow? Because the government don't treat them like that back home. So Nigerian government, either federal, state, and local, we have to treat our citizens the way we want them to be treated abroad. And that's the big issue here.
Okay.
And the final issue is that whenever these things happen, you don't see Nigeria ambassador rising up to the occasion. They don't speak to condemn it. The government does not summon the South African embassy who are in Nigeria to ask them what is happening in South Africa to Nigerian citizens. So if we are not protected at home, and when things are happening to us outside, the government does not protect us the way they should, those are the things you will continue to see.
All right. So you're saying that the solution should come from home.
Yes, it should come from home.
But the agitation is actually that there are illegal migrants and their own government is also involved or complicit in accepting them and forging documents for them. And can't we also blame their government as well?
Well, you can't blame their government. Why? Because what we call corruption does not know any country. They exist in Nigeria, they exist in South Africa, even almighty US, it exists there. But the proportion is what is different. So we cannot be responsible for what is happening to the government of South Africa. We can be more responsible to what is happening
in our own country.
So if the citizens of South Africa have alleged the way they have done that are illegal migrants, the responsibility is on them to write the authorities to fish out those of them who have entered the country illegally and possibly find a way of legalizing their stay. If it's not possible to legalize some of them, they can be returned to their countries, because we can't say they should just allow them to stay like that if they're actually illegal migrant there. Because another things these protesters were saying is that they are responsible for, a lot of drug crimes, drug trafficking, human rights, human trafficking and all that. So you cannot blame them for speaking out. All you can blame them for is to turn into xenophobic and begin to loot shop, begin to maim and beat people up. That is so barbaric, and that should be condemned by the government of Nigeria, the government of South Africa, and even other governments in African continent and beyond.